The Stinger is back, baby. Been a long time, hasn't it? After getting nerfed multiple times in Valorant's lifetime, the 950 credit SMG has finally received a nice little buff. After seeing more use in the Champions Tournament recently, the pros believe this gun has the potential to win that eco or save round. Mind you, this is before they release the most recent patch. Their goal with the Stinger is to make it feel controllable and appropriately lethal at short ranges. Do they overdo it, or does the Stinger meet the expectations that Riot set for it? That being said, should you start using the Stinger over guns like the Marshall and Spectre? Let's find out. I'm chill and let's get into it. If you were around during the Stinger meta in Valorant's early days, you would know that it was the dominant SMG and did everything the Spectre did, but with a faster time to kill. Riot took notice of the weapon's strength and threw down a thick, meaty nerf in patch 2.03, and then again to its walking and running inaccuracy in patch 3.0. When the Stinger was last in the meta, according to metasrc.com, it saw a 3.32% pick rate. For comparison, the Spectre was at 7.95% at the time. After the 2.11 patch, it dropped to just 0.39%. Yikes. With the recent buff to its primary fire error going from 1.6 after 7 bullets to 1.3 after 6 bullets, plus the alt fire first shot error going from 0.5 to 0.35, things are starting to look up again. This means that the Stinger should feel more reliable at those closer ranges when you begin your spray. The alt fire should also feel a bit easier to use at those longer ranges. After these changes were enacted, the Stinger started its ascent into the meta with a 2.13% pick rate. Now, it hasn't been buffed as drastically compared to its previous nerf, but the changes are significant enough to warrant the newly increased pick rate, especially after such a long time. The hype is indeed real. Now let's go over whether the Spectre is still the better pick. Now we should take the price of each weapon into account because that gives us a rough idea of how powerful the gun is compared to others in its price range. The Stinger is nearly half the price of the Spectre, which tells us that you'll theoretically get more value out of the gun with more credits spent. The Spectre is a very consistent close to medium range weapon. It has more utility than the Stinger, which warrants a price increase. This doesn't mean that the Spectre is the better pick all around, but it brings more to the table regarding versatility. The Stinger flat out has a faster time to kill with the same number of bullets at the 0 to 20 meter range. This includes all body parts and levels of shields. Here's a quick time to kill comparison using all body shots with each weapon within that 0 to 20 meter range. At the 0 to 15 meter range, I think the Stinger wins every time because of the chances of hitting more shots. When you get up to that 15 to 20 meter range, that's where I think you'll have more consistency with the Spectre or alt fire with the Stinger. The alt fire on the Stinger feels a bit more forgiving on that first shot now, so hitting 1 or 2 bursts feels more manageable. So let's say you win pistol round going into the second and your team force buys, which is pretty typical. You'll have a Stinger against a team without shields, assuming that they save. If you hit 2 out of 3 headshots in your burst, it will kill with light arm. If you hit 2 bodies and 1 head, you'll do 121 damage, which gets a kill on an enemy without armor. I think it's worth using the Stinger even at those medium ranges with the recent change to the alt fire, especially on the second round after a win. Picking the Stinger over the Spectre will be determined by factors like how comfortable you are with the recoil, which agent you're using, your playstyle favoring the more aggressive or duelist roles, and operating in those close to medium ranges. Let's talk about how to use the Stinger so you can feel confident going into your next match. First, we'll go over regular hipfire versus the alt fire. The Stinger's hipfire seems to excel at that 0 to 15 meter range, like I said before, whereas the alt fire feels more appropriate to use at 20 plus meters. This doesn't mean you can't get away with using hipfire at longer ranges and alt fire at closer, but generally speaking, this seems to be the intention with each aiming style. Remember what distance you expect an enemy to peek from and what you feel more comfortable using. Everyone's favorite thing in Valorant is obviously run and gun, right? It's hard to avoid talking about it since it seems integral to the game. Is run and gun a viable option with the Stinger? I think we both know the answer to that. Yes, but with a caveat. A while back when patch 3.0 dropped, the Stinger lost some accuracy while walking and running. That doesn't mean you can't do it though. In those 0 to 10 meter ranges, you can definitely get away with it, but there is a degree of randomness that grows drastically when extending that range. For example, if you're clearing U-Haul on bind, this is an excellent time to abuse the running gun. You want to be hard to hit, and using a duelist is where you'll see the most benefit from running gun with the Stinger. So abuse it when you can, but don't go overboard. Okay, so something I've noticed while experimenting with the Stinger is that the recent buff makes the first few bullets spread very tight. So theoretically, you can pull off some kills from ranges that the alt fire should be performing in. Check out this clip from Flya on Twitter. Absolutely insane. I haven't tested this too much in my game since I normally use alt fire at these ranges, but when practicing in the range, this feels unnaturally consistent. This might be worth trying for yourself because if it's as consistent as it seems, this could change the way people use the gun. Okay, so now that we know how to use the Stinger, the next question is when we should use it. That answer may seem obvious to some, but it's not always cut and dry. Most of the time, you'll be using the Stinger on second round after winning the first. Even if you buy a Sheriff first round and you die without a kill, but you win the round, you'll be able to afford a Stinger with full armor and all abilities second round. The only exception is Chamber if you decide to use most of his Headhunter bullets, which cost 1,250 credits total. On those rare occasions, if you choose to force buy after losing first round, with 1900 credits for losing, you can buy the Stinger, light armor, and some abilities. The other times you can use the Stinger are on half or light buys, or if you decide to bonus after winning the first and second rounds going into third. Bonusing, if you're unfamiliar, is when you win the first 2 rounds and decide to keep the weapons you had second round. This means you're playing at a disadvantage, but you'll have enough money to full buy the next 2 rounds. If you die second round but win, you should be able to rebuy the Stinger for bonus round, but you may need to save some money to guarantee a full buy for round 4. I know that there were a lot of numbers in this part, but hopefully it made sense. So we have the numbers and how to use the Stinger, but how does it feel in practice? I've used the Stinger for a good amount of time since its buff, and overall it has been a lot of fun. I haven't actively used it in a very long time, so there was a bit of an adjustment period compared to my comfort level with its more consistent counterpart, the Spectre. Rai did mention in the patch notes that there was a learning curve when it comes to the recoil, and I definitely noticed that. If you look at it in the range, you'll see a pretty consistent trend diagonally up to the right. Many guns have this spray pattern, so it's not like you have to learn a completely different pattern, but it is way more aggressive than you might be familiar with. Practicing dragging down and to the left while watching the bullet tracers has helped me a lot when using the Stinger, so I would head into the range and start getting the pattern down. Once you do get the hang of the recoil and how fast to pull down at different ranges, it feels pretty solid. Definitely more consistent than it used to be, but if you don't control the recoil, it's definitely less forgiving than the Spectre. It feels like you have to be more aware and precise with the Stinger while spraying, if that makes sense. It doesn't replace the Spectre in terms of versatility, but I think it competes with it, especially at nearly half the price. You can buy the Stinger and full armor with full abilities in times where you wouldn't be able to buy the Spectre with light shield without sacrificing some abilities. I would absolutely use the Stinger if you want power similar to the Spectre on a light buy round, but can't afford it without giving up shields. On maps where you have more opportunity for close quarters engagements, I'd pick the Stinger over the Spectre most of the time. Its strength up close paired with running gun accuracy absolutely shreds, and I would feel much more confident using it in those situations over the Spectre since the time to kill is slightly faster. Depending on the agent you use, the Stinger gains an extra boost. With Brim, you can use your stim beacon to melt your opponent as long as you're close. Just understand that it becomes a fire hose, so controlling the recoil will be even more challenging. In Neon's hands, it excels due to her wall, sprint, concuss, and slide combo. Any agent that can take advantage of close range fights with their smokes or rate of fire boosting abilities will get a lot of value out of this gun. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed your stay, drop a like and let me know in the comments how you're feeling about the Stinger. Subscribe if you want to see more guides like this one, and while you're here, why not check out another video? Thank you guys for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.